Hey guys, I'm Ashley, and in my video today I'm going to be doing my wrap-up for the 7 in 7 readathon that took place last week. I did successfully manage to read 7 things in 7 days, so I'm considering this a huge success. I decided to do it super last minute, and so I'm really happy that the fact that I decided to do it so late in the game didn't deter the fact that I was able to read 7 things in 7 days. So I'm going to be telling you about what I read last week and what I thought about what I read for a little bit, and let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first thing I read was Aristotle and Dante Discovered the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Steins and narrated by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This was my 4th time digesting this book. I have read it twice and now listened to it twice as well. I was listening to this in the car ride on the way to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter with my mom. It's a 6-hour drive, so 6 hours there, 6 hours back, and I just happened to finish this on the first day of the readathon. I forgot that the first day of the readathon was happening, and we happened to listen to this whole thing in the car on that day. So that was super lucky and worked out really well. I talked a little bit about that in my TBR for the 7 in 7 readathon, which I will link in the cards on the screen. Needless to say, I loved it. Again, 5 out of 5 stars. Again, it was a great experience listening to it with my mom. She ended up really enjoying it as well. And I was emotional during this reading of it, just like I am every other time at the same parts. I knew what was coming and it still hit me hard because there's just something about listening to it and having somebody say the actual beautiful lines out loud that just makes me feel even more emotional, and especially having it be Lin-Manuel Miranda who's saying it, because he just does such a good job of capturing Ari and Dante's characters and their voices and everything. So that just heightened the emotion for me. Even though I've already listened to his narration of it before, I was still very emotional while I was reading it, and so was she, and I just will never ever get tired of this story, never get tired of the beauty of it and of these boys and just all of the feels for this book. Next, I picked up Morning Glories Volume 2, and I got this from the library, so I don't have my own copy of it. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really, really good, very intriguing, a lot of mystery going on. I'm still super confused as to what the hell even that universe is and what is going on. I'm just so confused, and none of my questions were answered. I have even more questions, and while I think that's really cool for the story and is definitely keeping me invested and intrigued, and I'm definitely going to be picking up Volume 3, I do want some answers because I feel like I'm free-falling throughout that series. I do not feel grounded at all, but it's fine. It is what it is, and I'm gonna keep reading it anyway. So it just was a bit confusing for me, and that's why it lacked that last star for me. If you don't know, Morning Glories is the story of these teenagers who are taken to this boarding school that is for 17-year-olds. They all have the same birthday, and they get there and they find that the school is not what it seems. It's not just an educational institution. There is a lot of gory, sketchy criminal activities happening at this school, and there's a huge intrigue, weird plot thing going on, and I don't even know how else to describe it. I'm doing a horrible job, but you kind of just have to read it because that's the only way to experience the story. I've heard people say that it's like a combination of Lost and Gossip Girl, and that is so accurate. So if that sounds like something that is appealing to you, I would definitely give this series a try. Next, I read Paper Girls issue 6, and this was in an effort to try and 1, keep up with the Paper Girls series, and 2, to see if I would actually care about the story. Turns out I still don't. I found this whole thing just to be not as in-depth as I wanted it to be. It's just scratching the surface of the story, and I know that it's probably because we're just at the beginning of this tale, but I'm ready to be invested in it after issue 6, and I'm just not. So I'm probably going to give up on this series after this issue. This tells the story of this group of girls who are paper girls, so they carry out the newspaper and deliver the newspapers in the morning for the newspaper company, and one morning when they're delivering the newspapers, basically the apocalypse comes, and all these demons and monsters come raining from the sky, and this all takes place in the 70s, and it has a very Stranger Things vibe to it, which again sounds super intriguing, but ultimately just didn't quite hit for me. It just missed the mark and I'm probably not going to be continuing with this series. I ended up giving this issue 2 out of 5 stars. The fourth thing that I read was I finished A Quart of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So previously I was on chapter 26, which is 231, and there are a total 415 pages. So I read about 200 pages of this book, and I had actually asked on Twitter, the 7in7readathon Twitter, I asked them if finishing a book counted for the 7 things in 7 days if it's 200 pages, and whoever was in charge of the 7in7 Twitter account that day said yes, whatever you want to count counts. So I counted this because it's a thing, and it was a big chunk of the book, so I totally counted it. I really loved this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The reason I held back on that last star is just because I didn't like a lot of the characters in this book, and some parts of it felt too developed. It was too info dumpy, while other parts were not as fleshed out as others, like Feyre and Tamlin weren't as fleshed out. They felt really rushed. Their relationship felt really rushed, and I know it wasn't. I know she was actually there for many months, and it wasn't actually that rushed, but it felt rushed, and it just didn't leave me like sobbing or super emotionally wrecked like I was kind of expecting. So it was just a slight letdown for me, and that's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But I did really enjoy this story. I thought it was a really cool retelling for Beauty and the Beast, and I'm sure you already know what this is about, but in case you don't, it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that takes place in a land of fae creatures. And this girl, Feyre, is out hunting for her super poor family. She's the one who provides for them, and she kills a fae who is shapeshifted into a wolf. And so the leader of the court that wolf came from comes to claim her her life in exchange for her killing that wolf. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of a trilogy that has just grown so much more than what this first book was. This is just the beginning of a much bigger story, and for that I'm very thankful, because it did seem like, having read the second one now, this definitely feels like a setup for something bigger. So I'm glad that I continued on with it despite, I mean, I gave it 4 stars, so I wasn't super disappointed in it, but like I was really expecting this to be a 5-star read, and it wasn't. So I'm glad that I continued to read the series. Next, I finished listening to Shadow of Night, which is the second book in the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. So this audiobook is about 16 hours long, and when the readathon first started, I still had about 5 hours left to listen to, and then I listened to the entire 5 hours during the readathon and ended up finishing it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars really easily. This is one of my favorite series of all time. I can't really tell you what this particular book is about, but the first one is about this woman named Diana Bishop, who is a witch, and she discovers this alchemical manuscript from like the 1600s in a library when she's doing research, and she discovers this manuscript and sends it back, not knowing that it is a vital piece of history for other witches and vampires and demons, which are the other supernatural creatures in this world. And along the way she meets this vampire named Matthew and a bunch of other witches and demons who want to also get their hands on the manuscript, but she is determined to protect it because she thinks that it might damage the world for other people to have this manuscript. And it is a glorious, glorious story with everything you could ever want in a book. History, romance, action, adventure, time travel, supernatural, fantasy elements. It has everything. It's an amazing series, and this was a great book. It was really slow to get into, did not have as much fast-paced action as the first one did, but I understand that this was setting up so much, and we learned so much about magic in this book, specifically like Diana's kind of magic and like the history of magic in this universe. So that was really, really important, and Matthew and Diana are a force to be reckoned with as a couple in this book, and so that was really important as well. But I need to read the third one because shit went down by the end of this that we're not told what happened, but things happened and we don't know what happened, and so I need to start reading the third one immediately as soon as I'm done having emotions over A Quart of Mist and Fury. I will definitely get on that, but I highly recommend this series. It's just so good. Please read this book. Please go read this series. Also, it's getting turned into a television show being produced by the same people who produced Doctor Who. It's the Bad Wolf production company, and they just cast the main characters for this, and they did a perfect job, and the author is the executive producer, so it's going to be fantastic. So read it before it becomes a TV show. You will kick yourself for not reading it. The sixth thing I picked up and did not finish, unfortunately, was Love Letters to the Dead by Ava DeLaria. And I ended up DNFing this because it was so boring and so predictable. It is this book about this girl who writes letters to dead people like Kurt Cobain and Joaquin Phoenix and Amy Winehouse and Judy Garland and Amelia Earhart, telling basically the story of what's going on in her life as she goes to a new high school and what happened to her and her sister, because her sister died right before this book happened. And it's just her writing letters to them, explaining her life, and I just didn't understand the point of having it be in letters. Like, why was that necessary to tell this girl's story? She's just a girl. I'm just so confused by why it needed to be in letters. And it was just not that original of a story. Didn't hit me in any way, didn't make me emotional in any way, just really meh. So I ended up DNFing this, unfortunately. I really wish I would have liked this, because this was actually a gift to me from another book friend of mine. And she loves it, and I feel so bad that I didn't love it, but you know, we all have our own tastes. So I obviously gave this 1 out of 5 stars because I didn't even finish it. Oh, and last, but certainly not least, I read A Quart of Mist and Fury. I am still not over this book. I finished this a long time ago. I finished this like 6 days ago, and I'm still thinking about it. I think about it when I'm at work. I think about it when I'm reading other books. I think about it when I'm standing right here talking about other books. I'm not over this. This is the best book I've read all year, hands down. This is the best book I've probably read in like 2 or 3 years. This is my fave. This is the best. I don't know how I'm ever going to read books ever again. I don't know how to life now. I'm not okay, because this book was fantastic. This is everything. This is it. I lived up to the hype and more. I had super high, astronomically high expectations for this book, and it laughably passed all of those expectations. Like, that's the best I can do to tell you how much I love this. I love every bit of it. I love the character development in it. I love the relationships in it. I love the B characters. I love the setting. I want to live here. Please take me to the Night Court and let me live there and marry Rhysand, because I am in love with him a lot. This is perfect. There's nothing I don't like about this book, and I want everybody to read it so they can feel the heart-crushing feelings that I am feeling, and we can all wallow together as a collective bookworm universe about how freaking phenomenal this book is. Obviously, 5 out of 5 stars for this book. Like, if I could give this book 100 out of 5 stars, I would, because it's phenomenal. And that's it. That's everything I read for the 7 in 7 readathon. If you guys participated in it, you should let me know what you read down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading!